This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company and Purdy Insurance. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Sunbury Motor Company and Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
This half hour being brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai, the best in new inventory, great pre-owned inventory with the Sunbury Motors guarantee, and a terrific service department that does all the work. Quick lane, inspections, routine, difficult, they handle it all. At Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Under the category, it's been way too long. He is absolutely one of the best in the business. Somebody I have such great respect for. Bill Bender's Sporting News. Bill, welcome back. It is great to hear you again.
I think you heard my ears burning because yesterday, about the time you texted, I was loading a picture of Rocco Becht into our publishing system. So I was like, what timing is that? So, yeah, definitely a lot to talk about. Been way too long. Great to hear from you.
Great to hear from you, too. I'll get to Penn State and what you think in a little bit. But with the Cruz-Cantwell legislation coming out today, I think all of us are trying to absorb everything that's in it. But what were a couple of basics when you looked at it and said, okay, step in the right direction, maybe something in there you're not sure about?
No, the two. I mean, the portal, one time free, I've been an advocate of. You know,
yes.
Get one for free and then maybe you sit a year on the second one. I would love to know what studies would show the potential decrease in transfer portal rate would be if we had that. You know, then that way you don't have guys playing for 7 different schools in 5 years. I'm a fan of 5 years, too. You
yep.
get done what you need to get done in 5 years. You know, that leaves some room for maybe you get injured, maybe you something happens along the way or maybe you just don't play much, and you're getting paid for 5 years. I think that's fair. So those are a couple. I think there are so many, I don't want to call them problems, issues in college football. We got to attack them one at a time. Those are two that stick out. Before we do anything, though, it's the calendar. That's the one that really needs fixed.
Yes. Oh, I agree. No, the calendar is a complete mess the way it's being done. What adaptations would you consider to the calendar?
I mean, what the AFCA said a couple weeks ago, maybe push its season up a week. That's one. It's so bizarre to me. And I love the playoff, and I love college football. You've been around me long enough to know that. But a playoff that takes 50 days is too much. We've got to trim that down. And even if we expand it, you can still get that done in 5 or 6 weeks like the NFL does. I think it's entirely too long. And then, I mean, next year or this upcoming season, we're going to have a college football playoff championship game on January 25th.
I know.
That's absurd. So I think the length of the season is something they need to address. I would like to push signing day up to before the season. That gets lost in the shuffle there in December.
It's like you listen to this show. What the heck? I said all the same things you have. We're usually on the same page anyway. But the 5 years I'm completely for. 5 years from the time you get out of high school or up to a certain age, because 19 if you're a foreign player. We're talking about college basketball now. It rarely happens unless you're an Australian punter in football. But, I mean, and as for the playoff, Tony Petitti, and you've talked to Tony, I've talked to Tony, and I'm talking about one-on-one. You've talked to him one-on-one, so have I. So I see where he's coming from with it, so I understand that. And everybody's on board because they want opportunity. The SEC right now, we'll see what they say about it. But what makes this a tough sell in the sport, and what makes it a tough sell moving forward?
Well, I understand the concept, right? I know the Big Ten put out there that 80 schools would have made the playoffs since 2014 in a 2014 format. I understand that portion of it. You get more schools involved. It helps pay off the investments, the heavy investments that schools are making now. You take Penn State, for example. We posted this story Monday. Penn State would have been in the playoffs 7 times.
Yes.
More than half. And I think James Franklin will probably still be there. Yeah. Maybe. You and I that'd probably take 10 minutes to sort out. But there's a possibility he would still be there if the measurement is you make the playoff. I would liken making a 12-team playoff or even a 16-team playoff to making the Sweet 16 in college basketball. If you do that on a regular basis, you're going to hang around. Matt Painter's been to the Sweet 16 how many times in basketball? So it changes the standard of success. It benefits schools like Iowa. Iowa would have made 6 playoff appearances. So I get that, and coaches are going to be in favor of that because they won't be on the hot seat as much. Mm-hmm. But I think it also needs to come with the understanding that 24 teams extends the postseason, waters down the field, and hurts the regular season.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the way they want to do it, because I had to explain this to a club last week, and they said, well, how many home games did you get? I said, nobody get more than 1 home game. I said, you got the first round. I said, you got 8 teams that have byes, and then they'd get the home games the next round. Well, at that point, once you're done with that second round, now you're down to it. The question is, how do you want to handle New Year's Day? I'm all in favor of making the semifinals on New Year's Day, then playing the championship game, and playing those 4 quarterfinal games right before Christmas. I think you've got to do something to make this thing move a little bit more. I
agree. And you mentioned the home games. That's an important detail, Steve.
Yes.
The Bulls, the traditional New Year's Day 6 Bulls and the rotation of them, they're still locked into the quarterfinals and semifinals for the next 6 years.
Yes.
So if we go to 16 or 24, I'm glad you brought that up because that's a misconception that, we'll get 2 home games. It'll be amazing. Now, my opinion, Bulls aside, is that if we went to 16, I would like to see the first 2 rounds on campus, but I don't think we're going to get there anytime soon.
Yeah. No, me too. I agree with that. Look, here's another part, though, that I think is important to bring up. There will be people that will say, and I understand why they would say it, everything's a money grab. Go to 24, it's a money grab. Expand the NCAA basketball tournament, money grab. The problem is, Penn State has 31 sports. 29, their revenues and expenses lead them to being in the red. And nothing's getting less expensive out there. I mean, athletic departments, you and I both know, need the money.
Yeah, I mean, and that's in the TV money, and that's part of it too.
Yes.
For these other sports, and by the way, I followed the Penn State lacrosse team, for example. We were following them, my son and I, a little closer because freshman goalies from around here, Preston Hawkins had a fantastic season.
Yes, he did.
Team. He was great, and by the way, he can string a lacrosse stick, too. He strings my son's lacrosse sticks every once in a while, so he's a really good kid. That's what we're talking about, though. I don't want to lose sight of those sports. I enjoy Penn State lacrosse. I know wrestling, basketball, et cetera. But, they're trying to generate revenue because the revenue game has changed because we're paying the players now.
Yeah. And it was $20.5 million last year because of the 4% increase, which is mandated in the House settlement. It'll go to 21.3 this year. You did bring up in the beginning Rocco Becht. Matt Campbell comes in, brings 24 Iowa State players with him, and they're trying to forge this roster right now. What do you think it takes for a coach? Because so many are in the same boat where they're trying to merge rosters and trying to somehow get pieces to fit when they take over a job.
Well, I think Beck is the big one, right? Like when you're making the transition, when you're bringing a quarterback that's made 36 starts and played at a high level and doesn't make a ton of mistakes, is super efficient, that helps, and your offensive coordinator's there. I've been waiting for this moment with Matt Campbell for quite some time. We know he comes from, by the way, and I'm sure your listeners, you told them that the coaching room he was at Mount Union was absurd.
Yes.
I mean, he was a player at Mount Union under Larry Karras, who was the greatest Division III coach of all time.
Legend.
In an assistant coaching room with Jason Candle, who had a great career at Toledo, Nick Sirianni, who won a Super Bowl, Vince Karras, and then he played with one of my assistant coaches at sixth grade basketball last year, Robert McDavid, who was a really good friend. Matt knew what he was doing, and I've always wanted to see. We always knew he could do more with less at Iowa State, which he did. It was legendary. Now we get to see what he can do with more, and I'm really excited about it because I'm sure you've talked to Matt. You can feel it being around him. He's a big culture guy, he develops players, and I think he's going to do well there.
Well, I think he'll do extremely well here. I mean, because look, he's let me into a lot of things, which has been phenomenal. I mean, I didn't really have to ask, and he's been incredible to deal with, and he did something that I thought was really interesting in spring practice. Each week, he brought a different decade of lettermen in to sit down and meet with the players so that they understood what the tradition of Penn State was and had their own history lesson on what the place is about. And then we did a roundtable discussion or thereabouts at the team meeting on Saturday morning. And I just thought that showed me something about him, that he wasn't coming in saying, all right, it's the Matt Campbell show, here we go. It's no, it's Penn State football, and I want you to understand what Penn State football is.
Yeah, and he knows. And I think coming into the Big Ten, Coach Campbell was mentioned when Ohio State, it was the job was open for 10 minutes when Urban Meyer retired. But Matt Campbell was the name that came up. Each time Michigan went through a coaching change, Matt Campbell's name came up. And I think the reason for that is we all know that he would fit at a major Big Ten program. And now you get to see that in the way that it happened, obviously. One of the things that impressed me when he was at Iowa State is you go back and look at his games against, I know you guys are probably tired about talking about games against top 10 opponents, but he beat Texas and he beat Oklahoma and he beat them at Iowa State. And I think that's something that stuck out with me is they played those games tough when they were probably an underdog in most of those games. He comes to Penn State, you're going to be favored in some of those games, but you look at them this year and it's, as you know, he's going to face the same thing that Kyle Whittingham faces at Michigan. There's not a long honeymoon at Penn State or Michigan. You're expected to win right away.
Right. And it's also a year where, at least on the Big Ten level, it is a pretty loaded quarterback field, don't you think?
Yeah, we just ran our rankings today. I mean, when you get down to returning Heisman finalist Julian Sayin, Dante Moore, who could have been a top 5 pick this year. Jaden Maiava at USC is going to put up huge numbers. Bryce Underwood, it's a big year for him at Michigan, given the hype around him. I mean, we have a top 25 quarterbacks for 2026 coming out Friday afternoon or Friday morning, and there are 7 Big Ten guys on the list, and that's a lot. There's 7 SEC guys on the list too, which brings you to the question, okay, how much do those two teams dominate the entire sport? But, I mean, there's a really good quarterback class coming in, and Rocco Becht is a part of that. He's played a lot. I think it's a very interesting year for him. And, part of it was a couple years ago when he did his best work at Iowa State, he had the 2 NFL receivers that went to the Texans. Yeah. So you give him some talent, he can play.
And then Josh Hoover at Indiana coming over from TCU is another guy as well. What does it tell you about the depth of the position in the conference when Dylan Raiola is a backup?
Right. Well, Hoover is a really interesting one because I never thought I'd be on your show talking about Indiana, the quarterback pipeline, and with what Kurt Cignetti is arguably the best coach in college football right now, and I could make a strong case for that. One of the things with Fernando and Curtis Rourke the last 2 years is their passer rating went up by more than 40 points coming to Indiana. Yeah. If Josh Hoover's passer rating goes up by 40 points, he'll win the Heisman Trophy.
Right.
Like, he has the numbers. So, I would expect that he has a huge year and is a very big impact player for the Indiana Hoosiers.
Well, it's interesting you bring up the Indiana part, because I was on Sirius XM with E.J. Manuel and Roy Philpott a couple weeks ago, and they were asking about the schedule. And this is the first time since Penn State's been to the Big Ten that Ohio State is not on the schedule. It's part of the fact that you play a maximum of 3 times against an opponent in a 5-year period. So the schedule, we know who you're playing every year. I mean, Penn State next year goes to Oregon. I already know that. Things like that. Well, when you sat down and looked at this schedule, okay, there's no Ohio State, but Michigan's back. All right, there's no Oregon, but you got Washington. The one that you had last year, this year, that when that first schedule came out, you go, Indiana, yeah, okay, Indiana, so what? Right? Now it's like Indiana's not there.
Right. Yeah, it's like good not to have them on the schedule. I personal, and as you know, I'm a Central Ohio guy. I went to OU, and I don't love that Penn State and Ohio State's not on the schedule as a rivalry game. I mean, but it's part of like my high school DNA and growing up around the Big 33 game.
Yes.
With Penn, I went to that game a couple times, and just seeing the connection between the two states and knowing how much we both love high school football. And I've loved watching the Ohio State-Penn State rivalry over the years. I think they're fantastic games. Who knew a couple years ago we were watching a couple Steelers quarterbacks and Will Howard and Drew Aller go back and forth. But that's too bad. But if you do, like you said, you look at the schedule, the opportunity's there. There's that stretch where they're playing Michigan, Washington, and then I don't know if you guys have announced it yet, but I thought, like, when I saw USC on there, that's a candidate for a whiteout game, I would imagine.
I would imagine it is, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I would imagine it is. I mean, I haven't said it yet, but you'd imagine that's one of those you're sitting back, Penn State fans are sitting back saying, that's got to be it, right? We'll find out, but you're right. It's a definite candidate.
Yeah, and that would be a fun setting because, an all-time uniform game between both of those teams. So it's going to be, I think the opportunity to win 9 or 10 games is there, and that's again, going to heap more expectations on Matt Campbell in year one, but with the understanding that when you look at the roster, there are a ton of Iowa State transfers. There's some guys that could pop, and there's plenty of returning talent, but you also have to recognize they did just send a pretty hefty class to the NFL draft with some seriously talented players as well, including both running backs.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, a group that sent a serious crop to the NFL was Oregon, and it looks to me, when I look at just the names, that's about as talented a roster as I see in the Big Ten, right? Penn State doesn't play them, but it looks like Oregon's got a lot of talent still there despite how many guys went to the NFL. So
Sporting is going to have a preview magazine out on shelf here in a couple days, which I'm super excited about. So I wrote most of the Big Ten previews for this thing, and I had the same thought. When I wrote the Oregon one, I started thinking, wow, that guy's back? That guy's back? Yep. Look at the defense. They're going to be really talented on that side of the ball. Now, they do lose both coordinators, but Dante Moore's going to have more than enough to work with. I think what they're facing as a program now is, if I had to pick one program that it's like you're on the clock for a national championship, it's got to be Oregon. They've done everything else, and they've even done it in the Big Ten in 2 years. But these back-to-back blowouts in the quarterfinal round have they raise your eyebrows a little bit. Like when I watched it last year, Steve, the Indiana game, I mean, they had the pick six off the go, and I looked at my wife. I said, I think this game's over.
Yeah.
Like, I think Indiana's going to blow them out, and sure enough, that's what happened.
Yeah, in fact, I was in Indiana that night for basketball, and you're like, whoo. It was for Purdue, and they ran them out. And what's even worse for Oregon is that the two blowout losses in the playoff were against Big Ten teams.
Right, and that amplified it. I mean, the Rose Bowl loss to Ohio State, that game was over by halftime. And I think Dan Lanning's a fantastic coach. He's done a great job with that program. But that's when it starts to, when you get in that line of, okay, we know you're good, but you've got to break through and win one. I think they're going to face that a little more this year, because when you look at the Big Ten pecking order, most people, myself included, will pick Ohio State, Oregon, and Indiana to go to the playoff. Mm-hmm. And then that next year will be USC, Penn State, Michigan, and I would lump Iowa in there. I think Iowa, they just, whatever we predict for them, they win 9 games or 8 games. So they're going to get to that. It doesn't matter. They'll get there. And then Illinois and Washington are kind of interesting schools to me as well. Washington, especially with DeMond Williams coming back.
This flew by. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this, Bill. We got to do this a lot more often than just once in a while, and that's on me. I've got to be the one inviting you back more. I always enjoy every second of it. Thank you so much.
This segment blew by way too fast. Call me anytime. This was a lot of fun. We'll do it again. This was great.
Thanks, Bill. You're the best. Hey, all my best to your family, too. He's got a great family, just so everybody knows. So that's why he talks about his son being involved in lacrosse and everything. Bill gets involved in all that stuff. It's fabulous. The great Bill Bender. Sporting News. Half hour brought to you by Sunbury Motors. 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia. Routes 11 and 15 in Hummels Wharf. And online at sunburymotors.com. On News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Half hour brought to you by Purdy Insurance. Market Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Oh, we have a lot of insurance needs. We and the staff are looking to see if they have suit insurance. Still searching. But if you want auto, home, or life, business, boat, motorcycle, RV, just to name a few, Purdy Insurance will make sure you're fully insured, get you exactly the right policy, just the right amount of coverage, and they'll do everything they can to save you money. There's certain insurances you're allowed to go over state lines to find the best rates, and if that's there, they'll do it. And then they'll update it for you. You're not just a number there. Customer service means everything to them. Great people, great pros. Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. It may be the off-season in college sports. I mean, I know we got baseball, softball, some track going on. But for football and basketball, it's the off season. And there is no shortage of news. Wow. I mean, no shortage of news. Everywhere you turn. The story every day. That's what Bill Bender and I were talking about. Tomorrow, by the way, John Sauber, Center Daily Times. Rich Scarcella joins us on the show on Friday from the Reading Eagle. So we got a lot going on this week. It's interesting. He was putting together this quarterback thing, and he was some stuff about Rocco Becht. He said, and I get your text. It's like, okay. I will say this about Rocco Becht. Number one, if you, as a fan, you get an opportunity to meet him, just as a person, you're just really going to like him, and you're really going to be impressed by him. But it was also critical, not just from a quarterback point of view, the fact that he can throw it, he can run it, things like that. I mean, you can't put a price on a guy that threw for 2,800 yards and 16 touchdowns, to step in and be your starting quarterback. But he also has a charismatic personality that I think has been huge in bringing the roster together. I think that's been big in bringing the roster together. He's been a big part of that because of his ability as a leader. Like, the other players naturally gravitate toward him. And he doesn't force it. This is not like something that's forced. It's just some people are natural in their ability with their personalities. We talk about having a charismatic personality. And he's got that. And I think it makes a big difference. I think it makes a huge difference. And because what happens is that you have people that once they're around him, they believe in him. And in the blending of the roster, which is something that Matt Campbell has worked so hard at, he has worked very hard at trying to bring this roster together. And I think at the end of the spring, like I'd say the last 10 days of the spring, you felt like that was happening. And Rocco did a lot more in the spring than maybe some people thought he could do when he first got here. Well, he'll be limited in the spring, maybe by the second half. No, all the non-contact stuff, he did. Now, when it came to time to, have contact stuff, no. I mean, let's face it, it's the spring. You're not playing a game. He doesn't need to be involved in the contact stuff at all. Not in the least. But the other stuff, and the fact that he knows the offense, goodness gracious. That's a big part of this. When you know the offense, he's got the same coordinator he had last year. He's got the same quarterback coach he had last year. Makes all the difference in the world. So he can then, it's not just what he knows, but he can translate what he knows to the other players. It's important. I'm going to get a lot of questions in the offseason when I go out to speak about, A, how good they can be, and about the schedule. I've already done all the preliminary work on all the football stuff and all the Big Ten schools in basketball, plus I've done a few of the non-con matchups that I already know about. So I did workups on 12 football teams and so far 21 basketball teams. And it's that blending part I just talked about with Penn State that enters into how I feel about every team. Because there are so many transfers today. How do they all fit? How do they all fit? That's the part we don't know. Some blend in seamlessly and others don't. And because of that, like, for example, everybody in Michigan basketball fit. You could see right away all the parts were right. I mean, Morez Johnson's a different player than Yaxel Lendenborg. They're both different than Uday Mara. Right? They brought in a true pure point guard in Elliot Cadeau, who began the first half of the season, he was a pass first, make everybody better, and take care of my own stuff later, to then getting enough confidence in his own shot where he took it as the primary option on certain plays because he had that much confidence in himself. But you could tell right away they had all the parts and the chemistry that fit, even though Lendenborg was from UAB, Johnson was from Illinois, Morrow was from UCLA, Cadeau was from North Carolina. Burnett had been there, and he had transferred in after playing at two different places before he got to Michigan. Plus the guys they brought off the bench. Roddy Gale was also a transfer. He came in from Ohio State, been there a couple of years. And then you looked at Indiana. They brought in transfers all over the place. And you could tell right away, first on video, and then when you saw it in person, you could tell right away it didn't all fit. It did not all fit. And they didn't make the NCAA tournament, even though I think the story goes they spent more money on their roster than Michigan did. But they didn't make the NCAAs. And they didn't win a game in the Big Ten tournament either. But you could see, when you saw it in person, you looked at it and went, man, you can see some talent here. It's not like you don't see some talent. You can see some talent. But it's how a talent fits together. You can see Indiana basketball, it didn't fit. And if you look at this year's Indiana roster, there's only one guy back from last year's team. Trent Sisley is the only one guy. So that's the same story in football. There's so many changes. And because there are so many changes, it's really hard to get a feel for who is really good. A lot of it is who you think might be good. How about that? A lot of it is who might be good. Like I said with Bill, Oregon on paper, a lot of talent there. Not a little bit, a lot of talent. They lost a lot of guys to the NFL, and they still have a lot of talent. Ohio State has a fair amount of talent to it. Michigan is retooled in a lot of areas. The question is going to be how good is Underwood, and did they upgrade? I know they tried to upgrade at wide receivers. I didn't like the wide receivers last year at all. So they tried to upgrade at wideout, did they? They lost a bunch of guys on defense too, but Kyle Whittingham, to his credit at Utah, played a Big Ten style of game anyway. USC having Maiyava back's huge. But they lost a lot of wideouts, and they had to bring in transfer wideouts. Well, that's not Deuce Robinson he's throwing to, and that's not Mekhi Lemon he's throwing to. I mean, those are good players. And how do they play defensively? Because Danton Lynn is now here and not there. See, there's just so many questions where you see the names, the names have talent behind them or are good, and others have a chance to be terrific, and other guys, when you look at them for the most part, and I don't mean this as a cut, I don't. It's just when you're looking at, great, good, really good, whatever, and sometimes it's just another guy, right? In other words, just another guy is good enough to be playing at that level. That's pretty impressive. But compared to the other guys, he's just another guy. And that's where I have a difficulty in telling people. I mean, I can tell you who they have. I just don't know how good they are as a team. As a team. I don't mean individually. As a team. And as I've said on the show before, I'm at the point now with the portal where I feel it takes me a month of football and a month of basketball to then really see who is actually good and who is struggling with it. Because I think the chemistry part, not everybody is growing up together. When you have classes and recruiting classes, they grow up together. And you can see the progress that's being made and how everybody fits, and they know how it fits, and then you've got a culture that's established and so forth. It's very difficult to establish a rock-solid culture in this kind of era where you have parts from all over the place. Now, I'll say this about what Matt did, so I can at least speak to what Matt did on that part. Now, so I'm not going to talk out of turn here. I'm going to tell you exactly what I told him. Exactly what I told him was that, you know what? I said, so we'll talk about the football player part later, but you did bring in good people. You could just see good people. I've had a few laughs with the UCLA defensive tackles that have come in. They're just great people. Right? You know, if you talk to Brazina, Bacon, or Cooper Ebel, terrific people. Ike, great guy. Rocco Beck, can't say enough. Chase Sowell, can't say enough. Carson Hansen, you can't say enough. Right, to go with the guys that you already know. I mean, I already know, Malachi Goodman. I already know Anthony Donko and Cooper Cousins and Dominic Rulli and, Andrew Rapplier and Kobe Howard and Tony Rojas and Alex Tash. And you go through, Ty Blanding and Darius Dixon and Davian Collins and Jameer Joseph and, Zion Tracy. Oh, Marcus Neal's another one. You mean Marcus Neal? Marcus Neal's a really good safety, but, you talk to him. That's what I told Matt. I said, I got to give you credit. I said, you brought in. So, we'll talk later about the football part. But I said, you brought in some good people. And that's an important part to this. If you're going to put together a culture, that part has to be part of it. Now, when you get on the field, I would prefer to have a few of them, get out there and just hey, I may be a good guy, but it's time now for me to be an SOB here on the field. I'm okay. I think I mentioned this earlier. The SEC is eliminating after this season. I mean, you can't avoid this season. But what they refer to as Cupcake Weekend, the one that ESPN refused to call out because they were afraid to. Well, what do you mean we're afraid? You have a contract with them, so you don't want to offend them. I've told you what I would have done a million times in this show. If I was on the college football playoff committee, each week I would have them unranked for playing the game. I'd have them unranked. Yeah? I mean, come on. This is the time of the year where we're actually ranking you. You're making a mockery out of it. Oh, what's the difference between then and September? Because then, in November, the College Football Playoff Committee is attempting to rank you. They're giving nothing. You were giving them nothing to go by. So. That's where we are. Eastern Conference Final on ESPN, averaging about 7 million per viewers on ESPN. which is really good. Eastern Conference Finals Stanley Cup, Canadians Hurricanes, $1.7 million. Last year it was Panthers Hurricanes, it was $1.3 million. So that's good. All this new methodology is increasing viewership. It's probably a more realistic viewpoint of what college sports is right now. Softball regionals average 569,000 viewers. Sunday Night Baseball on NBC averaging about 2 million viewers. Western Conference Final, Vegas and Colorado, 2.1 million viewers, up 45% from last year. And the first WNBA telecast on NBC, 1.2 million viewers, up from 1.14 last year. USA is averaging 676,000. Actually, USA averages 518,000 for the first three games. Lowest was the Aces and the Sun, 343,000. Preakness got 5.5 million viewers. We're considering Golden Tempo didn't run. Pretty impressive. It was also the lead into the Cavaliers-Pistons game, which got 6.5 million. PGA Championship got 5.8 million. Game 2, Spurs-Thunder, which was on NBC, got 7.8 million viewers. Wow. Pretty good. Montreal-Buffalo, Game 7, 3 million viewers on NBC. Excuse me, on ESPN. ESPN. See if there's anything else here, ratings-wise. Yeah, we don't have the Indianapolis 500 ratings yet. I'm sure it's actually pretty good. I mean, the suit and I were texting during the course of the race. You know, they were running on yellow, and I said, this is exciting. I said, let me know when they're going to decide to race again. See, now I may be totally wrong about this. And so if you have a different opinion, I completely appreciate it. But every time I watch a NASCAR race, I get frustrated watching all the, and that's a stage one. I'm like, oh, for goodness sakes, will you just go to the start line, go 500 miles, and to finish it? I mean, nobody, I realize for points, the teams care about where they are with the stages. I do understand that. But I just want to know who wins the race. All right. Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. Game 1 tonight, Toronto Marlies. They will drop the puck at 7:05. Game 2 is also in Wilkes-Barre, Friday night, also at 7:05. Then games 3, 4, and 5 will be in Toronto next week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If needed, Game 6 is in Wilkes-Barre on Sunday the 7th at 6:05, and if a 7th, the deciding game is needed, it'll be June the 9th, a Tuesday night at 7:05. So there's your baby Pens schedule. That's known in the building as Appease the Suit segment. Oh, stop laughing in the studio. Stop doing that. It only hurts you in the staff meetings. Oh, boy. Tomorrow we'll probably get a better readout. Well, first of all, we should be getting a readout on television games. I think 3 o'clock today. They're supposed to... I think like in the next 10 minutes, I think it's supposed to release the first 3 games of the year. And maybe one additional one somewhere. I think the only thing, for example, like we know about Temple officially is the game's on ESPN2, but that doesn't tell us what time it's on. So. Yeah. So that's what's, so the first, I think right after 3 o'clock today, they should be, which is just a couple of minutes away. That's when they should start putting out at least some of the kickoff times. Who wants to know a kickoff time? I mean, really. Let them eat cake. Oh, man. And again, the schools have nothing to do with this. This is the TV networks. This is their whole ball game and the whole deal. As you know, as I've said over and over again, the Big Ten should do it like the NFL. Kickoffs for every single one, the network for every single one, with the idea that in November you get the flex games. All right, John Sauber, Saturday Daily Times tomorrow. Rich Scarcello, Reading Eagle on Friday. This half hour brought to you by Purdy Insurance. Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com on News Radio 1070 WKOK.